Peace and greetings. Presenting the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, providing in-depth information on society and culture in America and abroad, bringing you truth messages of inspiration, keen insight, reputable interviews, and so much more. So now, for the truth you've been waiting for, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast, Aura, the informationalist.
Yes, peace and greetings, people. This is Aura the Informationalist, and you are now tuned into the Network of Awareness. And we got a great show for you on this. This is a Most High Monday show, but it's airing on Tuesday as a pre-record just because I didn't get to release it yesterday because I didn't finish editing it. But since I'm back, people, just want to let you know that I'm going to be doing my shows 5 days a week. I'm just doing some catch-up shows on the pre-records, and I'll be doing some live shows. So I'll be mixing it up. Sometimes I'll probably go live 2 to 3 times a week, and then the other episodes will be pre-recorded and vice versa throughout the weeks, just because of things that I have that I'm setting up in regards to upgrading the show to TV and just really providing quality information for your subscription, as well as these free shows providing quality information that can bring some type of self-awareness, help you to be more self-aware as well as socially aware. And today's episode of season 4 is episode 58, and it's called Erroneous Economics. And the reason I called it Erroneous Economics because our economics worldwide, especially in the United States where we focus our content on, it's very erroneous. It's very much an error. It's very wrong. It's very upside down, but it's all to serve a purpose for world global control and having a one world centralized economic system. So we're going to discuss these things, and I'm going to focus on the economic forum that we had in this past year in May in Davos. And we're going to cover some things in this forum, in the World Economic Forum Summit that they had, just so you could be aware and prepare for what's to happen, because we're going to go through some major changes, people, when it comes to our economy. And what we can do is prepare for what's to come with this, so that we don't become victims of this beast system and become sheeples that are now enslaved to this new beast system that they're going to try to put. And that's why when I bring these shows out, even though we're talking about the economy, this is all related to the spiritual warfare that's going on. So just keep that in mind, that everything is based on spiritual warfare when it comes to this world. Everything, because we are spiritual beings first and foremost. And because we have the spirit and the light of the Most High within us, it's very important for us to be aware of that truth, as well as the lies that are going on in society today. And one of the big lies right now is inflation. So let's discuss the erroneous economics. I might do a part 2 to this, but for right now, let's focus on this segment. And I'll be right back in a moment with erroneous economics. Let's go.
Nothing like this. Stage Screen Radio.
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness.
All right, people. So welcome to Most High Mondays. And this is a pre-recorded episode that I didn't get to release yesterday. So you're getting it this Tuesday morning. Erroneous Economics is the title for this episode. And before we get into that, I just want to always, like I normally do, just give some thanks and some updates. So we got the TV network coming out this month. We have a company that I'm going to use that my friend hooked me up with like 2 years ago, and I just put it on the back burner. But I'm going to use this company to start offering T-shirts, my website. Now, just to let you listeners know, I'm not going to be in the industry or business of selling T-shirts. T-shirts will be sold off my website, but it's not something that I'm focusing on as a business. It's more of just a service. Also, because I'm going to have some pretty nice T-shirts. A lot of people like my logos. A lot of people like the designs that I have. So, they've been asking if I could put that on shirts, as well as some of the quotes that I have. Like when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Quotes like that, anonymous quotes that I could put on there. I'm not going to be using any famous quotes from people, but just to have it as not only as a service, and have another company just distribute it for me, but have it available through the site. But more importantly, to use it as a way of thanking you, the listeners, for your contributions. So in the future, I'll be giving out free T-shirts to certain people that have been supporting me. And then, of course, whatever campaign or promo I got going on where people can win a shirt, we'll set that up. And that way you guys can have some Network of Awareness T-shirts, as well as Network of Awareness.TV shirts. So you'll have the podcast shirts as well as the TV shirts, which are two different logos, but under the same entity. Definitely want to give thanks to the people who have been consistently supporting me for these past 2 years, and really for the year and a half, because my first half year was like 6 or 7 episodes, and I was doing this as a hobby. I really wasn't committed as I am now, but I'm glad that I went through that phase because it was a big learning phase, especially with recording. I had a lot of, in the beginning, my recordings weren't bad, but they weren't great. And I had to go through a lot of learning lessons and a lot of trial and error to finally get to a point where I can edit and do my recordings, whether they be live or pre-record, at a more professional level. And I've been like that for quite some time now. I want to thank those people that have been there since the beginning and those that are coming in. And I want to just thank those places just in the last 30 days, some of the places that I've received some significant download. Obviously, Canada is the number one country outside the United States that downloads my show. And thank you, Canada, because you guys are really, really on point with your listenership, and just keep spreading the word out there in Canada. You know what I mean? Just keep doing your thing, because I got a lot of supporters in Canada, and I love it. I love Canada. I like the way people operate out there, the mentality. They remind me of people from Ohio for some reason. And I've talked about this before. But thank you, Canada, for supporting the NOA. And then, of course, United Kingdom's been there since the beginning. United Kingdom and India were the first two. Then came Russia. They were the first two countries that started listening to me off the jump. So I actually had people overseas listening before people in the U.S., which is crazy, but I love it because obviously, I truly believe that when people listen to this show or any show, because I listen to other people's shows too, it's like I have to have a connection to some of the content because I follow the content. And sometimes when we're following content, you feel a very strong connection of like-minded individuals that you're listening to, because when they're talking, you can see how they see the world, but also how they handle things. And a lot of times they handle things just like you do. And those are the people I really appreciate. Those people that are very sincere, the ones that don't talk in third person, the ones that are not on their high horse or put themselves on a pedestal, the ones that don't take on this guru mentality, like a lot of people, like one that I had to deflect from or defect from, for many reasons, is that you have these people that are self-proclaimed gurus. And what happens is, and I just heard this not too long ago from a man that I was listening to on YouTube, is that when you're giving admiration to people, especially people on platforms like myself, we feed off that admiration. And it's like it's almost like the energy that people are giving in admiration, they suck up as psychic vampires, and have it support their ego to give you more fluff, I call it, to support them, to give them even more admiration. And we have to be careful with that, because I always tell people, don't follow me, because I'm just a man. I'm just like anybody else, making mistakes, trying to figure things out, and trying to make the most with the gifts that the Most High has given me, and also trying to discover more of what the Most High has given so that I could do more. And a lot of people are like that these days, but you have a few that have platforms that they don't just become the word of authority. They think that they are the only word of authority. And that's where it gets tricky, because your ego could really take over in ways that are, just very unhealthy spiritually. And I'm just glad that I could stay on a level that's just very grounded and very common sense approach. That's what I try to focus on. Some people say that this show is somewhat sophisticated in what I talk about, but it really isn't. It's just that we've been so confused and we've been so misled that when we talk about certain things, it seems like it's a very advanced topic or issue, but it's just because we've been strayed so much away from the truth that now when we get some of the truth, it's a little bit overwhelming because we've been so engaged in lies. And I bring this all up, people, is just to give thanks to those that understand and have a mentality that's common sense, where they're not just going to go with the flow. They're going to examine things. And like I always say, whatever information I provide, do your own research and make sure that if you are somebody that's giving out information, make sure you reference the information you get where you get it from. Now, if it's coming from you, it's coming from you. But if you're getting information from somebody else or you listen to, reference that person. Don't just take the credit for it like it's coming from you like other people do. There's a lot of people that do that. They talk and they're giving you this truthful information, but they're getting it from some other source and then they plagiarize it vocally. And what I mean by that is they just flip a couple of words around, flip the theme around, but still giving you that same truth. And then they mark it as their own. And to me, that's just vocal plagiarism. And it's not something that I particularly practice in. And you have to be careful to not get caught up in that because it's happening a lot these days. But I want to give thanks to these people just for the simple fact that I know some of you thought that I had left when I stopped doing shows, but I needed that break. And now that I'm back, we're going to do it better than ever. So thanks again to the United Kingdom for being the original country to listen to this show. And then, of course, we got India. Can't forget India. India supports me on a lot of different platforms, not just on my podcast, but on TikTok and on Instagram. Thank you to all the people that support me, young and older, right? Especially the young kids that support me in India. Thank you so much. Glad that whatever information I provide is helping in some way, shape, or form. Then we also have the Netherlands, Hungary, Brazil. We got Spain, Australia, France, Philippines, Argentina, Colombia, Denmark, Poland, Iraq, Uruguay, and South Africa. So thanks you to all those countries. And then, of course, last but not least, let's thank the United States, man, because the United States, as always, coming through. We got Alabama, D.C., Oregon, Michigan, Washington, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, Mississippi, Missouri, Virginia, South Carolina, Indiana, Louisiana, Illinois, Tennessee, Nebraska, California, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, New York, Georgia, and then New Jersey. New Jersey's number one this month. Thank you so much, New Jersey, right? As many of you know, those that have been listening to me for a while, if you don't know, I like some of the people in New Jersey. I just hate the state of New Jersey. The state of New Jersey is just it's one of those places that when it comes to laws and the beast system, they top. They one of the top states out of the country. But enough of that stuff. I just want to thank everybody for supporting. And I am back. For those of you that thought that I had left and quit, I just took a couple of weeks off. That's all. And I had to get rid of this energy that I was feeling like I wanted to fucking, do some damage, but it's not worth it. I can't, just because other people did me dirty, I can't take on that energy of vengeance or retaliation because it doesn't do anything for you. All it does, it drags you down into the same demonic low-level energy that the people that gave it to you in the first place. So all you start doing is becoming just like them. And I can tell you that the people that did me dirty, we are not cut from the same cloth. So just knowing that gave me peace of mind, and I needed to get that rage out. So we're good now. All right. Just wanted to reiterate that because some people was like, oh shit, they thought that I had stopped podcasting. But I've been doing this too long to give up or to question what it is that I'm doing, because what I'm doing is very authentic and original in the way I present it. But I'm not doing anything different than many other people are doing, which is providing information to help you gain some type of awareness of the world that you live in. And all praise to the Most High that I have the opportunity to do this at the level that I'm doing it right now. And I hope and pray that I can only do it at a higher level to serve the Most High better and to serve you brothers and sisters that are not accepting anything but the truth and nothing but the truth. So with that being said, erroneous economics. Now, just going to read a couple of things to you. When it comes to the World Economic Forum, they have an annual meeting, right? And it was in Davos. Now, Davos Spirit, check this out. The World Economic Forum had a meeting in 2022, right? It was from May 22nd to May 26th. Now, in the forum, it convenes at the most consequential geopolitical and geoeconomic moment of the past 3 decades and against the backdrop of a once-in-a-century pandemic. Notice how they say once in a century. The meeting will bring together over 2,000 leaders and experts from around the world, all committed to a Davos spirit of improving the state of the world. Now, we all know, or should I say way some of us know that are in this know and understand what's really going on is that when they have these meetings, as they had this past couple of months ago, is that all they're doing is that they're planning this beast satanic system that they're serving, and they're planning on what things they're going to implement at what specific time to bring forth more propaganda to push forth this initiative of a one world order system. And that's all this is for. Now, it also says that the meeting embodies will embody the World Economic Forum's philosophy of collaborative, multi-stakeholder impact, providing a unique collaborative environment in which to reconnect, share insights, gain fresh perspectives, I like that one, and build problem-solving communities and initiatives. Now, that all sounds great, people. And let me tell you something, too. If they was actually really doing this on a righteous level, on a spiritual level, that is really for the upliftment to make sure that humanity lives in a complete environment of abundance, to where we're not living in communities or in a world that constantly is showing scarcity, the world would be a great place to live. But obviously, that's not what we're living. That's not our reality. It says that against the backdrop of deepening global frictions and fractures, the backdrop of global friction and fractures is being caused by the very people and organizations and institutions that are meeting in these annual forums. They are the people that cause all the friction and all the fractures. They are the terrorists of the world, not just terrorists of certain countries, but they are the terrorists of the world. So when it comes to these global frictions and fractures, this is all the Hegelian dialectic, and it's all about causing confusion and chaos and the problem reaction solution. So all this is a major forum of people who know where the problem is coming from, because they're the ones that created the problem. This forum is the reaction for them to bring forth solutions to put and implement into law globally within multiple governments that all are supporting the satanic agenda. And in actuality, not all governments support the satanic agenda, but even those that don't are compromised to do so even against their own will. It says that it will be a starting point for a new era of global responsibility and cooperation. Now, responsibility and cooperation, just to let you know what that really means, is that they're going to create a system and an environment that's going to make it very difficult for you to survive without it, to where you have to conform to the new condition of how money is exchanged. And as I talked about before, that exchange is going to be completely digital. And the reason why they want to make it completely digital is because they want to control every single transaction in the world, and they want to know about it. And at the same time, not only do they want to control it, but they want it to where if you don't want to be a part of that system, then you have nothing. And even if you are part of the system, it's going to be the same thing, just at a higher level, which is you have nothing, but you are under the impression and illusion that you do, but you really own nothing. And that's kind of what we live now here, especially here in the United States. We own nothing. I talked about it with Oxycod. He brought it up. Like, you can't own your own house. You can't own nothing here, because it's always attached to some type of contractual bond that says and has stipulations to things. Now, you could own basic things here, but anything that is of true value and that would create some type of significant change for a lot of people, you're not going to have ownership of that. There's always going to be a stipulation to that. And that's the reality of the world now more than ever, because even the little bit of freedom that people had financially to some degree is being taken away slowly but surely in the last couple of years since the pandemic. Also, here are some of the things that they focused on when it comes to what they're meeting about. Now, one of them is climate change. Climate change is a huge one for them. Now, let's discuss climate change just a little bit on how they describe it and why it's important. Climate change is nothing but the distortion of weather. That's all it is. It's the satanic, demonic distortion of weather. And they've been doing it for a long time. And what they do is they're going to use climate change to create certain conditions that builds a narrative for change, especially like, for example, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Like, they're going to do something with the whole electrical car system, where it's like this whole saving the planet movement, all right? The whole carbon tax is going to be directed towards us to say, hey, gas is bad, coal is bad, so now we got to switch to electricity. And that's going to, listen, what I've noticed, especially living here in the United States, is that we're very dependent on electricity. Like right now, if my power was to go out, that's it. I can't broadcast, I can't do nothing on Wi-Fi. And a lot of what I do is dependent on if I have an internet connection. So I've become dependent, just like many of you, on electricity for not just electrical devices like lights and other appliances, but now we have this thing called a computer that we're heavily connected to. And if we don't have electricity, we're shit out of luck, right? So climate change, when it comes to the economic forum, they said tackling the climate crisis with initiative green technology technologies. Through their collective power, global businesses are working in the First Movers Coalition, are making technologies of tomorrow commercially viable today. And what that all means, people, is that the technology that they make useful or available to us in present time is technology that they had 40 years prior that they were using. A perfect example of that was the Bluetooth, because when you watch Star Trek, I've talked about this before, Captain Kirk and everybody had Bluetooths. They had Bluetooths on their chest and in their ear. And then what happens 30, 40 years later? All of a sudden, everybody got Bluetooths in their ear, where it looks like everybody's talking to themselves now, right? You could walk down any metropolitan street in any city of the country, and you're going to see a bunch of people that look like they're talking to themselves. Now, that's what they're planning on with climate change, which is really just a push for more control. And they're using weather to set the stage to give reason for why things have to change, so that it gives them more control and manipulates us to believe that this is what needs to happen in order to make things better. Another focus, impact, like what they call our impact. So these are the things that they're going to be focusing on. Another thing is the supply chains. Now, if you've heard me say it over and over again, it doesn't take a fucking genius or a rocket scientist to figure this out. The supply chains are being held up purposely, people. There's nothing, and this is what's crazy, is there's nothing that says why the supply chains are being, there is nothing holding up the supply chains, but just the very government that is in control of that supply chain, wherever it's being harbored. All right, it's just a bunch of games. It's a bunch of lies. But this is the problem, reaction, solution. Now a new problem that arises conveniently, coincidentally, as we know there's no such thing as coincidence, coincidentally just popped up, which is the supply chains now. And it's still present day an issue. So here's what the Economic Forum says. This is how they're going to tackle it, right? It says how companies collaborate to deliver life-saving supplies. Vaccine equity. Now, people, you would think that the topic of discussion when it comes to supply chains is overall supplying the world with essential goods. But what's the first thing they focus on? Vaccine equity. So they're more focused on getting the supplies of the depopulation supplies out more than food, water, or anything else that is essential to our way of life and to making sure that we stay alive, right, as a civilization. So let's check this out. It says vaccine equity, how the World Economic Forum, UNICEF, and leading logistic companies have supported inclusive and safe distribution of GACA-19, inoculations. So as you know, I have to use these terms because, freedom of speech is out the door. By the way, I have a show coming up after this that I'm doing live tonight, Tuesday night. It's going to be about how freedom of speech doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't for a while. I'm going to go deep into that because even the way I'm talking, I have to talk in code a lot because it's almost mandatory these days if you want your content to actually be heard by somebody. But we'll talk about that on episode 59 tonight when I go live. But why is it that they're only focusing on the GACA-19 with the supply chain? Because it's purposely being done to not only hinder humanity and hinder their survival and make them become more desperate because of the scarcity, but it's also to put emphasis on this thing right here that is causing a lot of chaos and destruction. Third thing, stakeholder capitalism. Now, stakeholder capitalism, this is what they're saying. Over 70 companies implement the ESG reporting metrics. A coalition of leading firms have co-created comprehensive corporate system to highlight the need for aligned and consistent ESG reporting system. Now, just to let you people know, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this one, all right? Because if some of you may know this already, that there's literally like 7 corporations that run the world, all right? And there's like several or a little over a dozen or about a dozen families globally that have investments in all these companies and own these companies. And when you go down the line, corporate America or corporatocracy throughout the world is what runs the world now. They are the ones that are conditioning the world to operate in the manner in which to operate in the illusion that's being given by them. And they're doing a great job at it. They're really doing a great job at it. Let's listen to some of the things that they're talking about when it comes to the aligning of ESG and the impact of aligning these ESG frameworks. It goes very deep on the corporate level. And what it is consolidating more and more every single year. They're consolidating more and more power to fewer and fewer corporations to the point where there's literally probably in the next, decade, if we even make it that far without having some type of civil unrest, is that you're probably going to see literally 3 corporations taking over the whole entire world. And you see it, matter of fact, a perfect example of what I'm talking about for those of you that may or may not know. When you look at the digital movie / entertainment media companies, there's been a major shift. So what you have is a lot of mergers going on, right? So like, for example, Paramount Network is now one network that you can subscribe to. And then they'll have a package with other companies, you know, like if you want to get Hulu or Netflix is its own separate entity, right? Netflix is really the one that caused the rift in how movies and all that was being distributed into people's homes. And a lot of people have followed that example. Matter of fact, Netflix is now the standard of how television and viewing entertainment is structured. Even with my TV show is going to be structured just like Netflix, people. I'm going to have different categories and it's all going to be sectioned off just like Netflix. And of course, on my website, I'm going to have information about the about the company and about, you know, who I am and all that good stuff. But in the way it's structured like a Netflix style because Netflix has now become the standard. That's how impactful they become. But back to what I was saying is that how it's all been consolidated. It's like Paramount Network is with Disney, right? And then you have like HBO and they have HBO Max and this, and then HBO is connected with Showtime and then it's all being consolidated now. And it's all being price gouged, to be honest, in my opinion, because some of these subscriptions to have a couple of these TV networks, you're paying like $80 or $90. Some of them you're paying $120 a month. I'm like, get out of here, man. Don't make no sense. But this is how they're getting us. This is all part of a bigger plan that happens in small incremental steps. So let's hear a little bit about what the Economic Forum's purpose for creating these frameworks since the pandemic. It says global changes amplified by the COVID-19 pandemic have made environmental, social, and governance issues even more pressing for policy makers, boards, and executives. Now, if you don't know what ESG is, that's what it is. Environmental, social, governance. That's all they're talking about. And this is what they do. This is why they're called the Alphabet Gang, because they have an acronym for fucking everything, man. So now it's ESG, right? Which is environmental, social, governance. And I'm going to probably do a show on this just to go a little bit more deeper into this particular framework, because I'm not going to be able to cover it all in the show. I'm just basically going over the general information about what supposedly they discuss. But of course, they're not going to tell us what they discuss. They're just going to tell us what they're going to talk about. But they're not going to let us hear what they're talking about. But ESG, all right, environmental and social governance. Now, it says to promote alignment amongst existing ESG frameworks, the World Economic Forum, with partners including Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC, has identified a set of universal matrix and disclosures, the stakeholder capitalism matrix. And people, let me tell you something. When I say that they discuss everything at these meetings, they discuss everything, just like they do at the Bilderberg. They're discussing what's going to happen in the next 10 years or 20 years. And a lot of it goes through, but this is why I say the Most High, nothing is more powerful than the Most High, than our great creator of that which is and always will, is that as much as they can plan out and actually be successful in completing certain short-term goals into a long-term goal, which is world domination, it's not going to always work in their favor. And when anything has to be put at a halt, it will. And it's one of the reasons why I do my show, because I even though I talk about all of the chaos, this is not a fear-mongering show. This is more of a show that's letting you know that the fear is real and to be aware of it and how they go about it through the lies, but also to understand that our power, that light that's within us, is the most powerful force that exists throughout the universe. And we're constantly being told that it doesn't even exist. Or if it does exist, they teach it to us in a different way to serve their master, which is that demonic power, that demonic force. So like I said before, they promote frameworks to basically control environmental, social, and governance. And that's where we're seeing a lot of those three things in our societies globally being heavily affected and attacked more now than we've probably seen in a long time, or specifically in our lifetimes, because I've only been here on this planet for 44 years. And in my 44 years, people, I've never seen anything like this. And I can only imagine what a young person is feeling, like somebody that's in a teenager or in their early 20s, how they're experiencing the world today, where for somebody like me, we know this is not normal. But for somebody that's that age, they may look at all this chaos and think that this is how the world really is and how it's supposed to be. And it doesn't surprise me. And I know that the hip hop and music industry has a lot to do with depression, but it doesn't surprise me with all of the chaos and what I call spiritual disruption that's going on and blockage, why so much of the youth today is depressed because of all this shit. But not to go off on a different tangent. During this annual meeting that they had, the forum is that they announced 70 companies that have included stakeholder capitalism matrix in their mainstream reporting materials, including annual reports and sustainability reports. Sustainability is going to be the new norm of political jargon or rhetoric that they're going to push down our throats. So that's pretty much that. I'm not going to read anything else, but it's basically, that's one of the things they're going to focus on, and it's a major thing. It's how they're going to influence us socially, how they're going to influence through politics and government, which is really the passing of laws. And then, of course, how are they going to influence us through weather modification? But of course, weather modification for them is called climate change. Love it. Gotta love it, people. And let me tell you, when I say gotta love it, I'm saying you gotta love it because it is such a great time, in my opinion, to be alive right now through all this chaos. Because I feel like, for me, in my own personal opinion and my perspective, is that one of the reasons why I'm so excited and I feel so good to be alive and to have light in my soul, in my spirit, is that we're coming to a point with worldly events that is coming to a climactic point where something is going to have to change, and it's going to happen sooner than later. When it's going to happen, I can't predict that. But it's going to be a significant shift in reality. I mean, we're having increments of it right now, but I'm talking about we're going to have, when it comes to this battle of righteousness and wickedness and good and evil, something is building up to where we're going to have something change everything. What that is, I don't know, but I'm excited for that because it's like we're going to see something like we're seeing now, but we're about to go back into the days of antiquity to where certain things are going to be revealed, and that is going to become normal after a while. It's not going to be so shocking anymore. You know, just like anything, once you're conditioned to something, you become, what's the term I'm looking for? Desensitized. And we're becoming very much desensitized on multiple levels. And it's because of this spiritual warfare. The next thing that they're going to focus on in the economic forum is trade and investment. And this one is pretty simple, straight to the point. Global alliance speeds up international trade. Now, remember, supply chains. So it's like problem, reaction, solution. So here's another discussion of supposed solutions for the world. The Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation is a public-private partnership for international trade growth run by the World Economic Forum, the Center for International Private Enterprise, and the International Chamber of Commerce. Enough said. All right. So this is all about how they're going to continue to inflate and trade and invest on the blood, sweat, and tears of you and I, the people. And they're doing a good job at it. Let me tell you something. Inflation right now, people, it's at a point now where it don't even make sense anymore, but yet it does. But when you see these gas prices the way that they are, and you see how real estate, whether it's renting or owning, or let's just call it renting or renting with the illusion of ownership, it don't even make sense, man. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense how a 1-bedroom apartment in a shitty neighborhood is going for like $1,200 or $1,000. You know, it just doesn't make sense, but yet it does. It's almost like the whole world is being gentrified right now. And when you think about all of the people from the past that have educated us, that have been seeking truth about when it comes to this separation and elimination of the middle class society here in America and in other countries as well, where it's like they are completely eliminating the middle class society, to where the Hunger Games, the reality of what happened in the movie The Hunger Games, is something that's slowly but surely starting to happen here in America, where things are becoming so expensive because of the inflated fiat money, that eventually, if we keep going down this pattern of economic behavior, nobody's going to have money to afford anything anymore. And this has been going on for a long time for the setup for something like this, because I talked about this with people when I was on that radio show back in Rockland County, New York, on the Rockland Report, where I talked about how the standard of living goes up every single year, people. Every year, the standard of living goes up. But yet, or the cost of living, right? What they call COLA. But yet, the wages haven't increased in a long time, and they just increased for minimum wage. And of course, that minimum wage still is set at a certain rate in certain states out here. But even making for some people making $16 an hour, you might as well be making $8 an hour with the inflation. So nothing has really changed. Only the illusion of change has been given to us. But in the reality of things, the problem that we was experiencing in the 70s when it came to the economy has gotten just worse and worse by the decade. And it's because of the initiatives and the plans that they put forth in these economic forums. And they are in turbo mode right now since the pandemic. Last but not least, I thought this was interesting because this falls into the transhumanism movement and being dependent on technology solely. Drones. Let me tell you something. Drones are going to become the I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, cornerstone or fabric of America. It's going to become the norm. Drones. Listen to the verbiage that's used here. How drones delivering vaccines are saving lives in India. The World Economic Economic Forum's Medicine from the Sky initiative is overcoming healthcare access barriers with drones delivering vaccines to remote areas. Wow, wonderful. It's great. But look at how they're pushing this. They're pushing it as a benefit. They're pushing it as a call to saving people's lives. That matters, right? But this is how it works. Once you accept this, let's just say India, to all my people that live in India that listen to the show. Once we start accepting this, or people from India accept this, let's say, which they already are, right? But what this does when you accept something like this, like drones delivering packages, it starts to become the norm for everything. So it's like, well, if we could deliver this, why don't we deliver that and this and that? And all of a sudden, people's jobs are going to be taken away in India and other places too that take on this initiative. Now you got more people that are out of jobs because these drones are taking the jobs away from them. But now you have people becoming more dependent on technology, and that's where it gets scary and that's where it gets dangerous. And the capability that these drones have is outstanding. It'll blow your mind at stuff that they could do, from infrared technology to night vision to weaponry to high-tech surveillance technology that can listen from a mile away. Whatever it is that they have on these things is bad business on so many different levels. But it ties into the transhumanism movement that this World Economic Forum is very much aware of and pushing forth. So those were the 5 different impact topics that they were going to cover. But we already know that there's way more that we're not going to know about that they're discussing. But on the same page, they have something called Why Artificial Intelligence is Vital in the Race to Meet SDGs. And this is on the same site for the World Economic Forum. And just a couple of things I want to cover before we wrap things up, people. And I'll leave with a couple of songs. But we're about 50 minutes in, so we're going to wrap it up after an hour, and then we'll play some music. But the World Economic Forum also focuses on artificial intelligence, right? So it says that the pandemic showed AI's potential for accelerating progress towards the SDGs. Now, SDG being Sustainable Development Goals, for those that don't know. I covered this early on my show. It was one of the first shows I ever did, the 17 Sustainable Goals. I think I need to revisit that topic and kind of reintroduce it and go deeper into it, what type of impact it's had present day. But when it comes to the Democrats, especially here in the United States, they're all about Sustainable Development Goals. Like, that's their whole initiative. But that's a whole nother episode for another day. But what it says here from the World Economic Forum, the pandemic showed AI potential for accelerating progress towards SDGs because that's what they want. They're going to create more and more problems and more challenges to make you believe that they have the solution, and the solution is technology. And the overall theme on how technology or artificial intelligence is promoted to benefit us and to be accepted and be willingly accepted is because it doesn't make mistakes. And we know that the only entity that does not make mistakes is the Most High. But yet, with this artificial intelligence, it's trying to become God. It's trying to become the Most High. It's trying to become the omnipotent overall power of everything that exists throughout the universe and operates in a Swiss with energy. They're trying to become or create this really beast system. This is all to worship and to give praise to Satan and to have Satan be in control of everything. But they're trying to push it as a benefit, as something that is beneficial to your life. And it's just going to have so much, they're going to make so much progress into creating problems that technology can solve and bring forth solutions. It also says that it has potential application in health, climate change, agriculture, and transportation. Oh, and we're seeing that. We've been experiencing that for the past 5 years now, heavily. And the new thing now is the manless transportation of vehicles, which Tesla is one of the leading companies providing that type of service and technology for companies. Last but not least on the highlight list, it says, but we must ensure artificial intelligence is employed in ways that are trusted, transparent, and inclusive. Shit don't even make sense, man. Transparent, trusted, and okay, sounds great. But we all know that is a bunch of nonsense. The governments of the world have never been transparent, people, and don't expect them to ever be as long as they're around. Just a quick couple of paragraphs here in this article that's in regards to this, just so you get a better understanding, people. 7 years have passed since world leaders met in New York and agreed 17 sustainable goals. This is what I covered. If you haven't heard it, it's on season 1. It's called 17 Sustainable Development Goals check it out. And I'm probably going to do another show on this because it was one of my first shows. And I covered a lot, but we need to cover some more. It says to resolve major challenges, including poverty, hunger, inequality, climate change, and health. These are all the things that they create. This is what they're creating. They create poverty. We can live as a global society without poverty. We have all the essential tools and know-how and wealth to make sure that that would never happen. But poverty is all about scarcity, and there has to be scarcity in order for there to be control. Hunger, inequality, climate change, and health. All the same shit. These are all things that they are putting a lot of time, energy, and money into infecting us with nothing but poisons. And we are absorbing these poisons and we're dropping like flies. And it's important for us to wake up to this so that a few of us cannot fall victim to this, because they want everybody to be victim, but we're not. You know, I know that for a fact just because I feel it. I can't prove it, but I know it to be true. I put all my faith in the Most High because I know that this benevolent system is not as powerful as it appears to be. And it's as much power as it gives the illusion or the appearance to be, is nothing greater than the power of the Most High. To continue on to what their goal and what the emphasis on artificial intelligence and why it's so beneficial is that they say that the pandemic, see, everything evolves around the pandemic, right? Because the pandemic was a major black flag zeitgeist altering event that we still are getting the residual effects from. So it says the pandemic undoubtedly diverted attention from some of these issues in the past couple of years. You think? But even before COC-19, the UN was warning that progress to meet the SDGs was not advancing at the speed or on the scale needed. Meeting them by key year 2030 will be tough. You think? All praise to the Most High. The damn Skippy is going to be tough. Really tough. Tough as leather. Yet, I remain optimistic. This is the World Economic Forum. They remain optimistic because it's going to be tough. The pandemic demonstrated like nothing else the power of working collaboratively across borders for the benefit of society. You see? This is how you know that this was a major propaganda move when they came out with this. Major. And I've covered this on multiple shows on how they went about deliberately, systematically creating this so-called event that put everybody's health in jeopardy, supposedly. Not me and you, but others. And calls for all of this collaborative work and working across borders as one world, one nation under their God, which is Satan. It concentrated minds, funding, and policy to accelerate research into virus detection, disease treatments, and vaccines and manufacturing platforms. Great. But we all know that this right here is not over. This agenda is just getting started. But the key year they set, meeting them by the year 2030. That's a key year. But let me tell you something. When it comes to the battle of good and evil, people, one thing I've realized these days is that it's very unpredictable. I feel like the only entity that knows what is and what isn't and what's going to be is the Most High. Because things are so unpredictable now with the battle between good and evil. You don't know who's going to win the next battle, but I know who's going to win the war because the war's already been won. So with that being said, people, that's all I have for erroneous economics. This is just this was an introduction to erroneous economics. I'm going to do a couple of parts to it. This is part one. I'll make sure to put the part one on the title. But yeah, this is erroneous economics, people, and be aware and prepared for this. And what I mean by prepared, I'm not saying stock up or whatever. It's being prepared spiritually to know that when this stuff happens, that you have certain things in place that you can now pivot to. All right, whether it be emergency supplies, emergency planning, looking to relocate, having a certain place to go to, or having a system to where you can survive right where you're at and face the battle head on with whatever tools you have. There's no one set answer, what I've realized, because at the end of the day, the only thing that brings me comfort in knowing that when the shit does hit the fan in its entirety in this world, that my faith and my spirit is going to guide me to safety, because it's being led and being guided by something that is of great positive benevolent energy, something that can take out any of this low-level demonic energy that's out here. I've seen it. So because I've seen it, and I may have seen it on small increments through my life, I know that those small increments, I know it exists. So some may say that I'm, an optimist, and maybe I am, but the optimism is coming from something far greater and deeper within me. And that's why I say, don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, people, because the light is within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. It's so true. And I'm learning how to do that better and better every single day. And it comes with major challenges, but the suffering is the joy, because in the suffering is the only way we can even experience joy, when we overcome some of the challenges that make us suffer. So with that being said, I greatly appreciate all you people. Spread the word, the Network of Awareness, one of the fastest growing podcasts in society and culture, and we're here to stay. And keep your head up, people, because at the end of the day, even though there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot to look forward to, and more importantly, there's a lot to be excited about in the world today with all the chaos. Because you know what it's doing, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure it's doing this for many of you. It's helping you to get a better understanding of what really matters opposed to what you thought mattered at a certain period in time of your life. And that's what's happening to a lot of us, is that a lot of us are starting to become reconditioned or reprogrammed with the spirit of the Most High doing the reprogramming, opposed to the other force or the enemy doing the programming. So we're deleting the programming slowly but surely that's been given to us since birth and filling it with the truth programming that's coming from a higher power. And I'm noticing it with myself on a basic example. And I've mentioned this before. I used to be a big UFC watcher, follower, and slowly but surely the passion and the desire to want to watch that form of entertainment has completely left me, to where there's things that I've substituted that energy for things that are more meaningful. And that's just on a low level, but that's a basic example of what I mean. And I know and I believe that that's happening with a lot of people around the world. So if that's happening with you, that's a good thing. Don't question with it. Go with it, because it's leading you to greater pastures. It's leading you to a greater understanding of who you truly are and what that light is within you and the power that it has and the potential that it has. So brothers and sisters, when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And let's exit out with a couple of songs from a couple of artists. And I will see you guys, or I will put a show on tonight it's probably going to be a live show. And that show is going to be about the freedom of speech and how freedom of speech is completely gone. And I'm going to go deep into, or somewhat deep into, that topic of how freedom of speech just doesn't exist no more. Because all of our speech, even this pre-recorded episode, once it gets released, it's going to be reviewed, and it will be probably shadow banned in certain places. But that's just the way of the world, and in the position that I'm in right now, I have to accept it. So brothers and sisters, thank you for listening to this show, Erroneous Economics, and until we meet again, peace, love, and light, and barakatah. Let's go.